Honourable members, the formal communication from His Excellency the President to be taken by the Speaker himself. And let me proceed to item numbered 6 on today's order paper. Honourable members, correction of votes and proceedings.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for catching your eye. Mr. Speaker, your admiration for the Constitution of Ghana, very respectfully, is something that we all take pride in. And for that reason, I wish to bring to your attention a constitutional infraction, very respectfully, potentially. And this is Article 102 of the 1992 Constitution. Very respectfully, Mr. Speaker, if I may take the liberty to read. A quorum of Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, very respectfully, this is a substantive position of the Constitution, which requires that we do not proceed with government business unless we have the requisite quorum. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, by our own standing orders, Order 64, we are also guided to ensure that we do not proceed unless we have quorum. Mr. Speaker, a critical look at the number in this House is less than 40, far below the number. Mr. Speaker, at the last sitting, you adjourned proceedings to today at 10 o'clock. Mr. Speaker, it's almost 12 o'clock, and the House does not have the requisite number. Very respectfully, notwithstanding the 185 or so members of the majority. Mr. Speaker, we still do not have the quorum. Mr. Speaker, we in the minority are ready to do government business to support. But Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, very respectfully, Mr. Speaker, very respectfully, considering your love for the Constitution, considering your knowledge of the Constitution and the fact that same lies in your bosom, I am only holding your leg and urging you to pay fidelity to the provisions of the Constitution, which requires that without the requisite quorum, we cannot proceed. Mr. Speaker, I humbly pray that you take this very respectfully into serious consideration.
Honourable member, are you on your feet? Honourable Majority Leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, you are aware that the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament has a breakfast prayer meeting at which many of our colleagues are in attendance. He has advertised it, and I'm aware that a lot of us are aware, and then they are at the program. But, Mr. Speaker, I encourage compliance with the provisions of our Constitution. If the honourable member still wishes to press on his question of quorum in spite of Speaker's program, we can do according to the standing orders, which is to take the step of ringing the bell. Except to say, Mr. Speaker, that the bell has been dysfunctional for close to a year now. Unfortunately, the bell has been dysfunctional for close to a year now. And so last week, when you asked that the bell should be rung, they only rang the bell around the chamber block. But the members of Parliament are not sitting around the chamber block. Some are actually sitting in their offices. And so if you direct that the bell should be rung, then you must direct that the person ringing the bell until the electronic bell, which is connected to every MP's office, is fixed. Then you will have to direct that the person must ring on all the floors up to the 11th floor, so that effectively the MPs can be aware that the bell has been rung. So I have no objection if he wants to press on the question of quorum, and I have no issue with us having the bell rung, but then you must extend and direct the clerks that they must ring on every floor, because since last week I have been on them. I called an emergency meeting of the clerk and his staff, and I insisted that they must fix the bell by yesterday, Monday. As at this morning, I checked on them, and they have not yet fixed the electronic bell. So anytime you ask that the bell should be rung, the MPs in their offices don't get notice that we are calling for quorum. And that is how come that you don't get them in the chamber in order for you to be able to meet the quorum requirements. So I have no problem. If you insist that we must press on the provisions of Order 64, let's go ahead and take the next step.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minority Chief Whip. Yes, I recognize you.
Speaker, with respect to the Leader of the House, I sense his frustration, and he spoke to his frustration. Unfortunately, I'm not aware about the difficulty we ran through as a House because of the challenges associated with the bill. And I find that as a very fundamental challenge. Speaker, the issue of the bill should have been resolved long ago. And this brings us back to the matter I have been raising. Issues such as this, we should have been dealt with already if we had, for instance, our House committee in place. They would have followed up and make sure these matters are dealt with. I am not too sure the reasons cited by the leader will come to a stop the Speaker from proceeding ahead. Because this is, as he does know, this is a constitutional requirement, and I least expected this matter to be raised. And Speaker, you know, we have shown readiness to work. At the conclave, we were there. As soon as the table office gave us heads up that the first deputy was there, I stopped whatever I was doing. Together with my deputy, we were there. We waited for a while for the chief whip to be called. He was nowhere to be found. Then subsequently, the leader came. So, also, on Friday, Speaker, you gave prior notice of a sitting time. And the votes and proceedings rightly captured it. Sitting is adjourned to Tuesday, 11 a.m. Prior notification was given. 10 a.m. So the notification was given ahead. So the concerns about the bill, it can be resolved. But today, it cannot be cited as a reason. So, Speaker, humbly, I speak to consolidate and corroborate what my colleague said. Let the process begin. And the majority should mobilize its members. We have come. We have tried. Bring your 137. Your 187. Yes. But don't forget, bring... Leader, we want to plead with you. Try and bring, and I see my colleague walking in elegantly. He should bring his numbers. Because we got one, it was not for nothing that the people of this country gave you 187. 187. And you cannot marshal half of 187. Oh, Abba. Because we are... Ordinarily, we would have wanted to withdraw this matter. But since it's a constitutional matter, and Speaker, you are a renowned, a very respected lawyer, I think we should respect the provision of the Constitution. And then they should have a caucus meeting. They should have a caucus meeting. Now you can see what I was going through when we were on the other side. My friend should have a caucus meeting and talk to his people that they have to come and do government business. So, Speaker, we are in your hands. Let the process begin. The absence of the bill cannot be an excuse. So, respected Majority Leader, we understand. We can see your frustration, but on this occasion, we are unable to yield or accede to your request. The difficulty associated with the bill cannot be cited as an excuse. Speaker, shall we proceed with the process?
Thank you very much, Honourable Majority Leader.
First and foremost, it is not easy to get me frustrated. So I'm not frustrated. I just feel that we should indulge the Speaker's religious ceremony. As we speak, about 110 MPs are sitting. Yeah, about 100. I counted. About 110 MPs are sitting there. And I was hoping that the minority members who are not there would have been here. But it's not as if when our side is not there, your side is there either. But I agree with you that we should all be here. There isn't much government business. I think we are basically looking at taking statements and facilitating the fresh MPs to find their feet, to start making statements and start contributing to debates. If we really had serious government business to conduct, I can assure you that every single member of my side will be sitting right behind me to conduct government business. But as you know, we don't have much government business, or even any today. There's no specific government business today to conduct. So we're just going through the normal business of the routine of statements and then comments on statements. So the impression that the minority chief whip seeks to convey to Ghanaians that we are not serious about government business. There's no government business here. There's no business. There's no bill before us. There's no loan agreement before us. There's no budget before us. There is nothing before us. So there's no government business before us. So don't get the impression that there's government business and the MPs on this side are not available to conduct government business. So let me assure you that when government business comes to this house, you will see that the NDC members are here in their numbers to conduct government business. So let me assure you that they will be coming in their numbers, and you will soon see them here. When they leave the Speaker's breakfast meeting, they will be here in the chamber and will conduct business. But thank you very much for standing down the issue of quorum that you have raised, and we can continue.
Honorable Deputy Minority Whip.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I don't know whether it is the case that the majority leader is saying he asks his members not to be in the chamber because they have no business to do. And also, Mr. Speaker, it must not be captured that the person who made the application for quorum has withdrawn it. That's not accurate. He did not. It should not be in our record that he has withdrawn that. Maybe the majority leader and the leader of government business didn't hear him well, but the minority whip didn't raise the quorum issue. And procedure, if it is the person who has raised that quorum issue is the one who ought to withdraw it, then so must be done. But the majority leader must not create the impression that there is nothing to do. We are telling Ghanaians that we are sitting here wasting their time, that we have nothing to do. Is that the case? Is that what the majority leader and the leader of government business is saying? So, Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians gave them the 183 for a reason. And we are here that you cannot even marshal 91, which is about 1/3 of 275 so far declared. And I don't think it is a good thing to do. So, Majority Leader, Mr. Speaker, so it is not true that the quorum issue under Article 102 of the 1992 Constitution has been withdrawn. This is a constitutional matter. You can't use meetings outside Parliament. You can't use other committee meetings as. We have been able to close down committees meeting to have quorum in the chamber. So if it is the case that you have 110 members somewhere, they are not in the chamber, and we need the numbers in the chamber to commence business. And I invite you, as a lawyer, 22 years and more at the bar, you should respect the Constitution and enforce the Constitution. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of correction, I'm now 23 years at the bar. Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I thought that the Minority Chief Whip, in the concluding part of his statement, did indicate to you, Mr. Speaker, that you could continue business according to what we have on the order paper. So I assumed that he was speaking on behalf of his backbench, who had raised the issue of quorum, who obviously has stood down the matter. So I am surprised that my friend, who has always pretended to be my friend,
Only outside. When he gets there,
you are my junior brother. It is Wes. He always pretends to be my friend, and yet he's the one causing the trouble. When your chief whip has said that we should continue according to the business of the day, then you get up and say that you don't think that the issue of quorum has been stood down. The issue of quorum has been stood down.
Mr.
Yes,
Speaker,
Honorable
the majority leader is trying to filibuster. I was in the lift with some members of his side, and they were in a hurry that their chief whip was whipping them into the chamber. So for the first time, he's all over the place. He's now seen how hard it is to do government business. So he's delaying to fill for the place and all. Mr. Speaker, he makes a certain point. He says that there is no government business, so there's no need to whip his side. Let me remind us, he said that whenever there is government business, he will see his numbers in the chamber. Let me remind him, when you were doing the first approval, the first nominee, the first batch, you were not up to 100. You needed outside to add to your numbers. The second batch, you were not even up to 91. We counted you. On all 4 occasions, you needed the minority, the mighty minority, Mr. Speaker, point of correction, the mighty minority to make you pass your ministers.
Honorable Minority Leader,
Yes,
you are
please.
introducing an adjective. When they also start, that will be problem.
Mr. Speaker, on this occasion, they can start.
So
They can
it's
start.
minority
Mr. Speaker, they can start.
and majority.
Mr. Speaker,
I am okay with minority and majority.
Mr. Speaker, they can start. They can call themselves super minority, super majority. Mr. Speaker, so if you look at all these empty seats, in this chamber now, Mr. Speaker, the so-called super majority is not even up to 50. They are not even up to 50. Mr. Speaker, rule on the application now. This House must stand adjourned. Rule upon this application. The application has not been withdrawn. Rule on it so that next time they will know how to whip their members in.
Honorable members,
Yes.
Honorable
Mr. Speaker,
Majority
he's
Leader.
using that is a tactical. So now you can also filibuster. Oh, I see.
Honorable Minority Leader, I don't know
Mr.
whether
Speaker,
this
please
is filibustering.
Mr. Speaker, you have to rule on this matter.
Yes,
Rule on it now.
yes.
This House must stand adjourned. Mr.
Yes.
Speaker, you can't do anything about it.
But
Don't encourage him.
when the leader is on his feet, I cannot ignore him.
Mr. Speaker, not against
Just like
the
I cannot
Constitution.
ignore you as a minority
Very
leader.
well. Mr. Speaker, you'll be quoted for what you have just said. Very,
Very well.
profound.
Yes,
When
very
the
well.
leaders are on their feet, you can't ignore them.
Yes, yes,
Very well. We've heard you.
yes. Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it is factually inaccurate for the minority leader to say that during the consideration and approval of the ministerial nominees, this House did not have a quorum, but for the participation of members of the minority. Mr. Speaker, is he saying that members of the minority are not part of this House, or that they have no obligation to constitute the quorum of this House? And so on what basis do they take monthly salaries, Mr. Speaker? On what basis? What were they elected to do? To come and sit outside the chamber of this house. You were elected to equally sit in this chamber the same way the people on this side are supposed to sit in the chamber. So when you sit in the chamber, you perform your public duties. Mr. Speaker, if I start citing members of the minority for not being in the chamber, we will not, and look at them, at all times, they don't even have 1/4 of their number in the chamber. Mr. Speaker, is it a deliberate ploy? But Mr. Speaker, that is not the issue. As we speak, they are not even up to 18. Ghanaians gave them 88. Ghanaians gave them 88. And they are using only 18. Next election will reduce it further. 88, and you are using 18. It means that you need only 18 in the chamber. So we will let the electorate know that even the 18, you are not using them efficiently. So perhaps they should reduce the number further and make it 18. Mr. Speaker, I am not against Order 64 applying. But as you can see, we have the numbers. We have the numbers. We have the numbers. And Mr. Speaker, if you read, you are the one insisting on quorum and you want to make statements.
Honourable members, fortified by Order 64, marginal note, quorum in Parliament, Article 102 of the Constitution. I stand on 64(4) to direct the yes, to ring the bell. Honourable members, let's proceed to look at the vote and proceedings. Vote and proceedings, 7 February 2025. Page 1. Check the console. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Yes, honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of cooperation and the national interest, in our quest to assist the majority to do government business, I wish to withdraw my application on quorum.
Page 8. Yes, Honourable Minority Whip.
Speaker, I thought my colleague, the Honourable Ewua, who had raised or come under Article 102 and Order 64, raising quorum consent, has withdrawn that. And Speaker, just to bring it to your notice so that you acknowledge that on this day, the minority decided to have mercy on the majority. We decided to have mercy on them. And accordingly, the quorum, under the Constitution, Speaker, we have decided to withdraw the quorum consent that was raised a while ago. And this is being done in the spirit of cooperation. Mr. Speaker, I see my respected leader, and not to put the whip under undue pressure. I see him running around making calls. We want to have mercy on you, and also to display that indeed it is out of patriotism, the love for our country. That is why we are withdrawing this. And it cannot be the case that the majority leader will say that we have no government business. That is untenable.
Honorable
Go
Chief
and find government business and bring it to this house for it to be prosecuted.
Honorable Chief Whip.
That is an important point.
Honorable Minority Chief Whip. I am reliably informed that the number at the chamber now is 97.
Speaker, let the record reflect that indeed we withdrew the quorum matter before the number, they got the number. The record should reflect same. Yes, we did.
May the record reflect that
Speaker,
at the time that the issue relating to quorum is being withdrawn, the number at the chamber is 97.
Speaker, with the greatest respect to you, would you be kind enough to furnish us the time we got this number? Because about 5 minutes ago, we reviewed our call on quorum. So we had withdrawn that. We had withdrawn the call on quorum before they got the number. That is a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact. We have shown cooperation. We are helping you to do government business. And yet you don't have government business.
I recognize Honorable Soini.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the indication that at the time that the application was made to withdraw the earlier call, the number in the chamber was over 90. But Mr. Speaker, I just want to use this opportunity to caution ourselves as we employ these tools that are allowed within our operations as members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, this caution has become important because it does not only interrupt the work in the chamber, but it also interrupts committee work. Mr. Speaker, myself and colleagues have just been called out of committee meetings to come to the chamber to be counted. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, we have guests from state institutions who are waiting for us. What we were doing there, Mr. Speaker, is part of Parliament business. And it is unfortunate that we have had to make these guests wait for us so that we can just come here to show our face. That also interrupts Parliament business in some way. Mr. Speaker, I do not begrudge the minority for imitating, in some cases, what may have happened to them when they were in government. But they should do so responsibly, like the minority at the time did, without unnecessarily, embarrassing all of us. Because as we speak, those leaders of those state agencies will think that Parliament is not a serious place. They have had to wait all morning just so that members can come, into the chamber to be counted for business to be conducted. So, Mr. Speaker, my caution is that we should employ these, tools very, very judiciously.
Are you on a point of order?
So, Mr. Speaker, my caution is that we should employ these tools. We should employ these tools judiciously and use them in a way that we will not be ridiculing ourselves and also, by extension, be ridiculed by the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Honorable
Speaker.
Deputy Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm very surprised the angle at which the Member of Parliament for Tamale North is going. Mr. Speaker, he has used some words in this regard that is unparliamentary. When you say unnecessarily, when constitutional matters are raised, at the time the quorum was, you have been invited to look at the quorum of the chamber. Mr. Speaker, we are all aware that we did not satisfy under Article 102 of the Constitution. So is it the case that you are saying that by averting our mind to Article 102 of the 1992 Constitution, that we don't have 91 or more to commence government business was unnecessary? And even if you are at committee meeting, you are not the only member of the committee. The minority whip is also a member of the committee that you are talking about. So even if there is a committee meeting, it should be suspended. If we need numbers in the chamber, every committee meeting, if you have to suspend them to come in here to get the quorum to commence business. But it should never be the case, and it must not be on our record that the way you think that you are engaged somewhere is more important than what we do in the chamber. Then what would be the essence of us being in the chamber? So I think that my nephew is completely out of order. He's warming up to be a deputy minister for rules, and he has to be guided, and he's senior here, so he should not mislead us into believing that if you are at a committee meeting, you are not needed in there. This is a constitutional matter, and if the constitution is triggered in anywhere that you are, you have to respect and obey by what the constitution says. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there's a point that needs to be made, and I think that the Honorable for Tamale North and what he has said about how we use the question of quorum is very, very important. Leadership is aware that in this House, when we first come in and we are at the point where we are saying our prayers, we are looking at votes and proceedings, we hardly ever raise the question of quorum at that stage. The business of the day has not yet even started. And that is when you come to the point where it says, at the commencement of public business. At the commencement of public business. We haven't even commenced public business. We are just at the point of saying prayers, correcting our votes and proceedings. Then consistently you raise quorum. Mr. Speaker, you were given orientation. Take your orientation seriously. Take your orientation seriously. When we get to public business, then you see that there's no quorum. Then you raise the question of quorum. If we are going to raise quorum when we are about to pray, if we are going to raise quorum when we are about to correct our votes and proceedings. Mr. Speaker, I have heard the Deputy Whip saying that we need quorum to pray. How can we need quorum to pray? How can we need quorum to correct our votes and proceedings? We need quorum at the commencement of public business. That has been the practice in this House. That has been the practice in this House. Mr. Speaker, let me add that let's not turn this whole idea of quorum as a political weapon. Mr. Speaker, consistently this side of the House, you've never been up to 1/3 of your number since we started proceedings. You've never been up to 1/3 of your number. As we speak, you are just 21. And like I said earlier, Ghanaians gave you 88 seats. And consistently, you have utilized just about 21. Next election, we'll give you only 21. Because you have demonstrated that that is why you need to do business in this House. But I think that we have a quorum to do business. And even though we haven't reached public business, you withdrew your issue of quorum earlier. So what are you going to litigate?
Honourable members, let's look at Article 102. Article 102 of the 1992 Constitution states, and I quote, "A quorum of Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all members of Parliament." Honourable members, let me also take you to look at Order 64.3. A member may draw the attention of the person presiding at any time during a sitting that members present in the House constitute less than 1/3 of the number of all members of Parliament. Honourable members, these are the relevant constitutional provision as well as our own standing orders. Honourable members, I ask that the bell be rung for 10 minutes, and within the 10 minutes, I was informed that we have 97, and consequently, the quorum was withdrawn. Can we make progress? Page 8. Page 8 of the vote and proceedings. All members, let's have the vote and proceedings adopted, and then we can make progress. Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on page 7. Mr. Speaker, after the presentation of business statement, the issue of the previous day's vote was corrected, that the decision was a rescission. Mr. Speaker, that must reflect in the vote, but they skipped that to page 8, where there is point 6, recognition of a school. So, Mr. Speaker, I want that to reflect. In respect of our 4 colleagues, there was a rescission. That correction was done. Mr. Speaker, having done that, Mr. Speaker, I want to claim the attention of colleagues on this important matter. Mr. Speaker, our colleague Al-Hassan Suhini, in his submission earlier, had used 2 phrases: that the minority must not be seen to be acting irresponsible, and he also said quorum used unnecessary. Mr. Speaker, we can take it as he's saying so on a lighter note, but I want to remind my colleagues opposite me that there are a number of times that they have become sensitive to phrases. I won't ask him to withdraw, but I want this day, the 11th of February, to be remembered. You use the word irresponsible minority. We don't have a problem. And Mr. Speaker did not say withdraw, and it is going into Hansard.
Honorable Minority Leader, I haven't heard the word irresponsible minority.
He said so. You can call for
irresponsible minority.
He did, Mr. Speaker. I challenge it. I just want you to get it. He did say that. Check the records. Mr. Speaker, just call the records now. Let them check it, and let's check it. I won't lie. Sometimes when we raise the issue as if we are saying things from our own head, he used those 2 phrases. Check it now, Mr. Speaker. I wrote it down. But I'm saying that we absorb some of these jokes. We, our side, we absorb some of these strong words. But if it were to come from this side to the other side, you would have heard, hey, why are you calling irresponsible? They should be responsible. You can check it. So I am reminding him.
Let me find out from Honorable Soyini.
If he says he didn't use it, let's call for the record.
Did you use the word irresponsible minority?
Mr. Speaker, I remember using 3 words. I described the use as unnecessary. I encouraged that it should be used responsibly. And I also said it should be used judiciously. I said it should be used responsibly and it should be used judiciously. Mr. Speaker, if the minority leader decides to look at the opposite of responsible, that is not my choice. That is his interpretation. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, in the unlikely event, far-flung event that the word irresponsible minority is used, I direct that it be expunged from the records. Honorable members, page 8. Yes, Honorable Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, item number, Speaker, let me do this now. Item number 7 on page 8. The table office captures that the point raised by the First Deputy Minority Chief Whip was in respect of quorum to transact business. But if I recall, the issue he raised was in respect of commencement quorum, because you dealt with the matter after I had presented the business statement, answered questions, and same got adopted. So if the table office can correct, it was about a commencement quorum. Mr. Speaker, I recall that very well. And then, Mr. Speaker, just for your guide, now we were all over the news over the weekend that Friday's adjournment was as a result of the fact that we didn't have quorum to transact business. But Mr. Speaker, if you compare that information plus the record of the votes and proceedings that we are correcting now, we had as many as 192 members of parliament present on Friday. Speaker, if you recall, I made a point in the course of the submissions that even the ad hoc committee was sitting and that other members too were at committee meetings. So if we could be given the opportunity to get members to attend to business on the floor. But that didn't happen. So being a house of record, tomorrow the record for Friday will show that instead of the news out there that we adjourned because we didn't have the numbers, we actually had 192 members present. Just for your guide, for you to guide the House. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Table of it, take note. Honorable Deputy Whip.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to assist my colleague, the Majority Whip, that he cannot assume that we have about 192 marked present on the vote and proceedings and assume that that was the number present. You cited Order 64.3, and Order 64.3 is clear that quorum can be raised at any time. And Mr. Speaker, for Hansard, when you were adjourning, you said the table office had counted, and we were 71. You made that announcement, and for that matter, you are adjourning the House. So it must not be in our record because of his assumption that we had 92 people marked present when you had directed clerk to count, and we were 71 at the time that we were adjourning. So we adjourned because we did not have the numbers. We adjourned because your super 193 vanished, and you were just about 1830. So that is what is on our record, and that was your direction, and that was exactly what you said, Mr. Speaker. So he needs to be guided. Mr. Speaker, also to advise him that you've just been a Majority Whip about 3 weeks now. So when I'm talking, I'm your senior in leadership. Sit down, let me finish. I've been here over 4 years, so you sit down on the front bench. He should sit down. I've been your leader over 4 years now. You've just been 3 weeks. So you should be able to learn and be guided on the procedure we use. But you cannot assume that, even Mr. Speaker, we have not even approved this. We have not approved this. And he cannot even refer to it because it has not been adopted. The vote and proceedings on Friday has not even been adopted. He said,
Honorable Deputy,
it has not been adopted. So
are you on point of order? Please.
Then number 2, I am senior to you in this house. You in this house. So with all due respect, I'm senior to you in this house. So we extend courtesies to each other. Don't do this again. Please, with all due respect. We are brothers. I respect you so much. So reciprocate that. Speaker, thank you. Let's do business for today.